I'm back. Miss me? Hello everyone, I'm Dan the Man. As you may have noticed, I've been gone for a while. Due to some personal issues, I wasn't able to get last week's video out, so in the interest of catching up, this week I will be covering both Dominique's eviction and Ramses' eviction, as well as everything else that happened in between. So that's a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Before I get into the nomination, I want to talk a little about Crispus' injury. I didn't want to talk much about this until they showed the full results of her surgery on the episodes, so as not to spoil anything for people who are just watching the shows and not following the feeds. But now that they did talk about it on the show, damn. She was definitely injured much worse than we, or seemingly even Crispus herself, realized. 10 broken bones and 4 dislocated. Ouch. It didn't look like she fell near hard enough to do that kind of damage. I guess Jason must have fallen onto her or something. I had previously been of the thought that she should probably be sent home, and obviously her health is the most important thing. But I've come to the conclusion I'm not a doctor, so if her doctor says she's okay to stay, and she wants to stay, who am I to say she shouldn't? The argument she gets to leave the house, in an environment Big Brother can't fully control, is valid. I am sure someone is going with her and staying in her room or in the hospital and telling her not to allow visitors, but they can only control so much in a hospital where staff is in and out and people can walk by her room. The hospital is likely not going to go out of their way to accommodate Big Brother when they got sick and injured people to deal with. So theoretically, someone could walk by, recognize her, and reveal something, or even one of the staff, if they are fans of Big Brother, could say something. Because it's unlikely the hospital is going to stop people from working to have CBS make them sign waivers. A lot have said she should leave and come back next year, but it isn't that simple. For one, very few people come back, despite how it sometimes seems. So there's no guarantee even if she had stayed healthy, she would ever get a chance to come back. If she leaves pre-jury, then by finale night, a lot will have mostly forgotten about her. And even if Big Brother were to guarantee her a slot back next year, if she's going to be in a cast for 6 weeks or more, and then have up to a year of recovery, then the truth is she might not be at full health by next season either. And if she gets arthritis in a year and needs another surgery, who knows when or if she can ever come back. When it seemed like a normal break, saying, let her come back next year seemed mostly logical, but the truth is this may be her only chance to play, so sending her home now may mean the end of her Big Brother career indefinitely, if not forever. The house guests have also been showing frustration with her being allowed to leave, but at the same time, if they really don't want her there, or think the situation is unfair, they can vote her out. She can't compete in a lot of competitions anyway, so it's not like she's going to be going a winning streak to keep her there if they want to get rid of her. If they don't want to vote her out, either because they're afraid how fans would perceive it, or just would feel bad, that really is their problem at that point. One thing that has gotten some fans mad, as a valid goof on Big Brother's part, is it was revealed when she came back and started talking to people that Crispus heard Julie say it was 3 votes for Ramses and none for anyone else over the phone. That's not good, as Crispus has managed to ask around and figure out who went in before her and that Kevin was the one he could vote besides her. She's also told several people, which is not good for Kevin as he is busted. Now to be fair, most had started suspecting Kevin even before then. They're not stupid, and as I said before, casting a Hiki vote every week and blaming different people isn't going to work, and everyone knows it makes no sense why Jason would do it. Not to mention Kevin is an idiot for just doing that because Paul told him to. So can't really feel bad for him, but sure, Crispus putting it together cemented it for most people, and that does affect his game. No one can really do anything about it now, and given how unprecedented it was to have someone cast a vote over the phone, it's not shocking they messed something up. But it hasn't done a lot to convince people saying she shouldn't be there that they were wrong to feel that way. So with that out of the way, on to Alex's head of household win in the nominations. I had thought Alex would play it safe and just get Jessica out, and while she didn't quite go after a couple like she had wanted to before, she has so far had a decent showing in her head of household. Dominique may not have been her first choice, but despite Elena wanting her to keep everyone except basically Alex's own allies safe with their deal, Alex managed to get Elena mostly on board with putting up someone on her side, having shown Dominic can't be trusted, and with minimal backlash, it seems only Mark is upset at all, but even he seems more mad at his own side for being on board than Alex specifically. Obviously, Jessica is up and could go home, but how Dom is handling it, plus the house's state of mind as of the nominations, made it seem like despite how it looked going into this week, Jessica is not a target. So Alex looks to have taken the target heavily off her, while getting out someone she is not working with in the process. I do want to note that while the show made it look like this was almost all Paul's doing, that is an exaggeration. Paul did have a lot to do with making Dominique the target, but Alex wanted to put her or one of the couples up and had a lot more to do with the nominations going down like they did than the editing made us believe. But it seems, much like they have with other vets in the past, Big Brother is going to try to sell us that Paul is the only one playing as much as they possibly can. They did a similar edit with Jeff in Big Brother 13, who, despite Jeff not playing a great game, they went out of their way to make it look like Jeff controlled everything that happened, even if they had to edit it into something that made no sense rather than show the truth. Paul is playing better than Jeff, although he's also had a safety net to help him, but that's about over now. But he did not control this week to the extent they want us to believe. That's the power of editing for you. After the nominations, Dominique made another huge mistake prior to the veto competition, and that was to call a house meeting. Now, as we all know, house meetings always work out perfectly, they never backfire, and no one has ever blown up their game in a house meeting. I'm kidding, house meetings are never a good idea, and short of season 1, I can't remember one ever doing anything but making things worse for the person calling it, and Dominique continued that tradition. Paul was more than ready for a verbal spar, and while he looked like a damn idiot in a snake costume, Paul camera pandering at its finest, he deflected any points Dom might have made, and they were all valid points, but she handled it poorly for an audience that didn't want to hear it. Word of advice to future Big Brother players, never call a house meeting. All it leads to is you putting your foot in your mouth. At the end of the day, Dominique simply handled the week badly. She thought she was in a primo spot prior to the household, found out she wasn't, and fell apart at seeing the rug yanked out from under her. After the veto competition, Dominique almost found an unlikely savior in Jason, who I think really wanted to shake things up and also make inroads with Jessica by taking her down. But Alex would have none of it, and for better or worse, Alex seems to have Jason in her back pocket. He faltered for a long time, and for a second Paul almost got his way and had the veto changed to further ensure Dominique went home, or to possibly even backdoor Mark. The problem was that Alex may or may not be in Paul's pocket, but Paul's idea he gave, which was not aired but happened on the live feeds, of simply lying to get Jace to use the veto, then putting up Mark, was not beneficial to Alex, and Alex is not so enamored with Paul, she's ready to tank her best relationship in the house to give Paul his way. So for the first time all season, the veto was not used, and Dom's fate was mostly sealed. So was Dominique the right choice? Well, for Paul she was, as she was going after him. Not sure about anyone else, though. Dom was only going after Paul and was not wanting to kill inroads with anyone else. Jessica was, on the other hand, a wild card who proved she could not be trusted. The house guests also, despite what the show implies, suspected a battle back, and thus Cody could come back in, which happened, but more of that in a second. So keeping Jessica around was not really beneficial to anyone except for Paul. But for whatever reason, be it they are starstruck, stupid, or manipulated by production, everyone is listening to Paul and helping him even if they gain nothing from it. So Dominique was toast even if it wasn't in the best decision for most of the house. So on to the battle back competition. Cody was the one who most figured would win out of the 4 competing, so it was not a huge surprise he came back in. Some said that it was fixed for him to beat the other 3, but I don't buy that. Yes, of the 4 people competing for the battle back, Cody was the best competitor, but neither the puzzle or catapult had been done before, so unless someone thinks they somehow mucked with the actual maze or catapult, which seems unlikely, there's nothing about Cody that tells me he'd be better at mazes or catapults than any of the other 3. Not like they do mazes and pulleys in boot camp. Now the final leg, where Cody faced a current house guest. Yeah, that was more or less set up. Sure, the puzzle was different, but whoever had won the battle back to that point would have had practice and learned how the pulleys work as opposed to someone going in with no practice. So whoever had fought to keep out the battle back player was going to have a huge handicap. Sure, had Cody messed up near the end and dropped the ball in one of the holes before finishing, and Paul used the time to catch up and win the battle back, Big Brother would have had to honor it and Cody would not have come in. But it wouldn't be good TV for no one to come back in, plus it would have messed up the eviction schedules going forward. So Big Brother was counting on the battle back winner getting in and did what they could to help ensure that happened. Do I think it was done with Cody in mind? Nah, I'm sure it was designed like that before they even knew Cody was going to be evicted, but it was designed to make sure someone came back in. So was it good for Jessica that Cody came back in? In a word, no. Cody coming back in probably lost Jessica the game. Jessica was making some inroads to going down on everyone's radar, is proof by the fact she did not get voted out immediately after Cody. She did undo some of that with her behavior after getting the temptation, which allowed her to undo an eviction and made her feel more safe, but she was still not number one on people's radar anymore. Cody coming back in changed that. Cody's a pariah. He has a bad attitude, bad social skills, and is bad at playing Big Brother. And not just bad, but toxically bad. And Jessica running into his arms after he came back in likely covered her in a stink of Cody that she will never get off, for she will from now on be guilty by association for anything he did or does going forward. If Cody goes before her, they might hold off on evicting her immediately afterwards, but I don't think she can win at this point. It is likely just delaying the inevitable. Either way, she and Cody got a reprieve when Jessica stepped up and won the head of household. Although props to her and Crispus for hanging in so long. Been a while since we had an endurance competition go for around 3 hours. I guess I should address Crispus using the scooter thing for the comp. Some have said that it gave her an advantage, and the fact that she held on so long would seem to imply that also. But others have argued that while she had it to lean on, it would dig her cast into her leg, and depending on how much weight she could put on it, it might have forced her to put all of her weight on the other leg. My opinion? Who knows? I really don't think it's worth debating at this point. She lost anyway, and as I said earlier, the truth is her doctor has cleared her, she doesn't want to leave, and Big Brother is not going to make her leave. Whether you agree with it or not, it is a situation, and everyone who has an issue would be better at this point to just accept it for what it is and move on. Big Brother is not always fair, so even if this is unfair or not, it won't be the last time something seems unfair. Believe me. And given as how she didn't win, it didn't ultimately affect anything, as I doubt it hindered or helped anyone else's performance. Most of those knuckleheads likely didn't want to be the one to put up one of Cody or Jessica, and by the way, I refuse to call them Jody, just to address that. But back to my point, most of the house guests likely did not want to put up Cody or Jessica and risk the wrath of the one who stayed, especially if they were not likely to be their target if Cody or Jessica did win. So that is likely why most fell out early on, so hey, at least Crispus tried to win, which is more than I can say for most of them. So that brings me to Jessica's nominations. A lot were disappointed and said Jessica wasted her head of household to even target Josh and put up Ramses with him. I'm not sure she had a bad idea myself though. She and Cody had made a lot of waves, and while I don't think Jessica made much difference in mending fences, she was trying to. If she put up two bigger threats, she would have made a bigger move, and fans love big moves, but it would have also made her more enemies and made herself more of a target than she already is. Big Brother's a marathon, not a sprint. Huge game-changing moves make great TV, but they are not always the right move to make. And in reality, most people who make them, especially on a regular basis, end up going home in the fallout of said big moves. So going after Josh and getting rid of an enemy that would seem to not have many true allies, thus upsetting few people on paper, was not a bad move. Yeah, plenty of non-Paul fans wanted her to backdoor Paul, but the facts are Paul would not have gone home if she put him up, and she knew it. And failing to get him out would have only made more enemies. Where Jessica messed up was misreading the other house guests and thinking Ramses was a good pawn to get Josh out. No one particularly liked Josh, but Paul, who basically controls the house right now, save Jessica and Cody, does like Josh. Why does he like Josh? Because Josh is his weapon. BB has not shown it because they want everyone to love Paul and not see he might have his faults, but the fights that Josh keeps having with Cody, Jessica, and Mark, Paul tells him to go bother them every time. Not some of the times, not most of the times, all of the times. Every fight that Josh ever gets him, Paul tells him to start a fight, Josh says, "Yes, master," and then Josh does it. Paul is in no hurry to lose that. But the bigger issue was that Cody beat Paul one-on-one to get his way back in the house. That hurt Paul's ego, so Paul wanted to get Cody back. He wanted to make Cody look stupid and show that Paul was the big dog. And since Jessica and Cody were playing as a unit, Paul wanted to blindside Cody and Jessica. Not just for strategy, and not just because Ramses, unlike Josh, could not be controlled, as he was the one person outside of Jessica and Cody not following Paul, but because Paul wanted to make a point, mostly to himself. So whoever Cody and Jessica wanted out, Paul was likely going to campaign to save. But when the other person was someone who was of no use to Paul, or basically anyone else's game, it was a piece of cake to get everyone on board with voting out Ramses. Some, such as Jason and Matt, did question why getting Ramses out was better for them over Josh, but nothing ever really came of it. But Jessica also messed up on the veto. She won it, and while we saw Kevin later tell Jessica, What we missed was Kevin hinted to Ramses he was going home if he didn't do anything prior to the veto ceremony. Ramses did try with Jessica to get her to change her mind, although not as much as he should have. Jessica thought about it and got paranoid, but she made one huge mistake. She wanted to put Alex up in Ramses' place. Now, to be clear, her mistake was not to put Alex up next to Josh. That was actually a fairly good idea, as Jessica could have stood to lose either one of them, as neither Alex or Josh have any intention of working with her and have made that abundantly clear to Jessica. So Jessica would be good with either of them going. Paul also needs Alex more than he needs Josh, so he would have likely tried to change the votes to get Josh out, which best case scenario would have gotten people asking why he was so intent on changing it all of a sudden and caused Paul's allies to suspect him, or worst case for Jessica, gotten Alex out instead of Josh. The mistake she made was telling Cody that she wanted to put up Alex. Despite going along quietly with everything Jessica had done to that point, he immediately spoke up once Alex's name came up. Because Cody, no matter who thinks I am crazy, likes Alex. And yes, he clearly is into Jessica also, but looks like Cody has not gotten completely over Alex, because he's fine with whatever Jessica wants, unless that's to jeopardize Alex going home. I wonder why. Sorry, Cody, I'm on to you. If she had said she wanted to put up Raven, Cody likely would not have objected, and good chance Josh would have gone home. So Jessica made the wrong call, didn't use the veto, and trusted the pawn would go home. But as we all know in Big Brother, the pawn often does not go home, and Ramses went home instead of Josh. Some of the fun was ruined, as Cody and Jessica by that time had gotten wind that Ramses might go home, so we're not that shocked. Although Elena sure was. I guess Jessica forgot to tell Elena. So was Ramses the right choice? Honestly, I don't think so. Again, the right choice for Paul, but Josh staying helped no one but Paul and maybe Christmas. Ramses was aching for an alliance and was ripe for the taking, but mostly through misguided opinions, everyone felt they couldn't trust him. Some of that was on him, as he had been shifty, but the house guests let their imaginations run wild to justify ganging up on him, and decided he did everything from taking the $25,000 that Kevin took the first night to traveling back in time and shooting Lincoln. Ramses going home helped Paul and no one else, and left everyone with a loose cannon in the house, and I have a feeling a lot of them are going to end up regretting it. I don't know if these people are biding their time until they think Paul and his experience isn't useful, or that they're drinking his Kool-Aid. But sooner or later they have to start thinking for themselves, or they'll be sitting in the jury either bitter he backstabbed them, or giving him the check. As we saw, Paul won head of household, but Jessica ruined his parade and threw Julie Chen off, which was awesome by the way, by revealing basically she can't go home. Some are arguing that if Paul targets Jessica and Cody this week, it's now pointless, which it may very well be. But Paul would be wise, not knowing fully what Jessica has, to just put up her and Cody and force her hand. At least he'll know, and she will have had to use her temptation. So while I think Jessica mostly did that out of anger, if she was hoping to scare Paul into putting someone else up, she's probably going to be disappointed. Well, that's it for this long, 2-week version of my review. If you like this video, comment, like, and subscribe. I'll be back next weekend, not with 2 weeks this time, but with 1, for a review of Paul's Head of Household run, which might be a short one, since the odds are good that nothing will change and no votes will be cast, but it should be interesting if nothing else. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan the Man, and I'll see you next time.